Not all that glitters is gold, and not every foreign land is a promised land. The airport was packed that day. Lagos heat, airport tears, hopeful eyes. The Adeyemis were flying out, bags packed, heart heavy, dreams inflated. They weren't running from Nigeria. They were chasing something: stability, opportunity, and a better life for their only son, Daniel. At just 13, Daniel looked every bit the curious teenager, his eyes darting between excitement and fear. What none of them knew was that this better life would almost break them. Your son will thank you later, people had said. Overseas education is the best gift, but the UK wasn't a postcard fantasy. From the moment Daniel stepped into Year 9 at Bexley Secondary School, London, he felt like a ghost trapped in someone else's story. His accent was mocked. His food was laughed at. "You smell like pepper soup," a boy once said, as the class erupted in crow laughter. By the third month, Daniel stopped talking altogether, not just at school, but at home too. His parents noticed, of course. The boy who used to recite Yoruba poems and proverbs with grandpa was now locked behind headphones and shadows. When his mother, Tola, asked if he was okay, he simply nodded. She didn't know then, but her son was slipping through her fingers like sand from the shores of a home they do left behind. A child does not die because the mother is not around. He dies because the community turned its face away. The UK had systems, it had structures, but it didn't have community, not the kind Daniel knew. No aunties dropping in, no uncles with kola nuts, no neighbors correcting you with love. Here, everyone mind their business, and in that silence, Daniel was drowning. Tola and Kunle tried everything: extra classes, tutors, church youth group. They even signed him up for a local Nigerian cultural event. But Daniel hated it. "I'm not a zoo animal," he shouted one day. "You want me to dance and wear Ankara like some joke?" His words stung. Tola cried that night. Kunle didn't know how to reach his boys anymore. The promise of the UK was becoming a slow betrayal. Then came the night they found the letter, folded neatly under Daniel's mattress. A suicide note. Words too dark for a child that young. "I'm tired of pretending. I don't belong here. I'm not enough." The word froze. Tola collapsed on the floor screaming. Kunle called emergency. That night, everything changed. The hospital lights were too bright, the silence too loud. Daniel laid unconscious for hours. In those hours, Tola replayed every conversation. Every time he said, "Be strong," instead of "Are you hurting?" She realized that strength meant something different in the UK. It wasn't just about resilience anymore. It was about survival, emotional survival. When Daniel finally opened his eyes, they looked empty. Not angry, not sad, just hollow. Kunle held his hand and said, "We're going to fix this, son. We're going to walk this part with you." Daniel looked away. That's when the counselor told them, "This boy doesn't hate life. He hates the silence he's trapped in." And for the first time, Tola understood. It wasn't about bad grades or culture shock. It was about disconnection. When there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. But the enemy within was strong: shame, confusion, identity loss. Daniel wasn't Nigerian enough to belong at home and not British enough to belong abroad. He lived in between. On a tightrope of isolation, his story was not unique. Many children like him relocated in their formative years, drift in identity purgatory. Tola found an online support group, Nigerian Moms Abroad. There, She read stories of other mothers, some who lost their children to depression, others to gang violence, and some to drugs. She wasn't alone. We love them, but we don't listen to them. One post read, "We bring them here and leave their souls behind." She decided to bring Daniel back home, not to Nigeria, but to his roots. They started speaking Yoruba at home again. She cooked egusi soup without shame and stopped trying to make jollof British friendly. Slowly, their home became a sanctuary, not a UK hybrid, but a Nigeria heartbeat in a foreign land. They found a Nigerian therapist who understood cultural duality. "Daniel needs to unlearn shame," she said. "You don't need to heal a broken root by painting the leaves. You go back to the soil." And so, healing began, not through pills or sermons, but through reconnection. Daniel started writing poetry. Mostly his words were raw. "I was made in Niger, shipped in silence, packed for the Queen's Street. But who am I now?" His school assigned him a mentor, another Nigerian boy, older, who had gone through the same part. That same art of representation changed everything. Kunle, who had once told Daniel to man up, apologized. "I thought I was preparing you for life. I didn't know I was helping life prepare to crush you." That night, they sat together and listened to Lagbaja. They laughed. For the first time in a year, the sound of joy came back into their home. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Daniel's school held a multicultural week. He got up, heart pounding, and read his poem to the entire school. There was silence, then applause. That day, he wasn't the African kid, he was a voice. After the multicultural event, Daniel began to change. He wasn't fixed, but he was opening up. He started a blog called Niger Boy in London, where he wrote about racism, loneliness, food, faith, and forgiveness. Kids from other immigration homes began messaging him. "You said what I couldn't say," one girl from a Bangladesh wrote. He was becoming a bridge between cultures. Tola and Kunle enrolled in parenting workshop, not out of guilt, but growth. They learned that discipline in the UK didn't mean the same thing as back home. They learned that silence in this land meant suffering. Back home, we said children should be seen and not heard. Here, if we don't listen to them, the world will give them other voice to follow. The facilitator said, "When the music changes, so does the dance." And so they began to dance differently and not abandoning their values, but learning how to adapt them. Kunle used to laugh at therapy. "Nigerians don't do therapy," he once said, but he went with Daniel. Weeks after weeks, slowly, he began to heal too, from his own childhood wounds, from fatherhood pressure, from the guilt he didn't know he carried. By the time Daniel turned 15, he stood taller, not just in height, but in selfhood. He wore Ankara to his school prom, not as a costume, but as a crown. "You look like a king," his classmates said, and for the first time, he believed it. The family traveled to Nigeria that summer. 2 years after their big move to the UK, they went back, not in shame, but to reclaim what was lost. Daniel saw the old house, the dusty roads, his cousins. He hugged his grandfather for the first time in years. "I'm sorry, I forgot where I came from," Daniel whispered. His grandfather smiled. "Oh, mommy, even a tree that bends in storm still knows where its roots are buried." They attended a naming ceremony in Ibadan, and Daniel danced openly, widely, proudly. Someone recorded it. The video went viral on TikTok. Caption: "British boy returns to Nigeria and finds himself again." Daniel laughed. "They think I'm British," he told his mother, "but I'm both. I am Niger and I am me." Back in the UK, Tola started hosting small gatherings. Nigerian moms, immigrants, confused parents. They cooked together. They cried together. They shared stories. One woman said, "I thought I was the only one. Thank you for not being ashamed to speak up." Tola nodded. "Silence nearly killed my son. I will never be silent again." Kunle launched a podcast, Fathers Abroad. He brought in African dads to talk about masculinity, emotion, raising children in diaspora. "We think strength is silence," he said in one episode, but strength is vulnerability dressed in courage. That episode reached over 10,000 downloads. Daniel got a scholarship to study creative writing. In his application essay, he wrote, "The day I nearly died was the day I began to live. My voice was buried under shame, accent, silence. But now I write for every child who think they don't belong. Because we all do, somewhere, somehow, and I have found my somewhere." Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. Now, Daniel writes, he speaks, he lives. The Adeyemis, they are no longer just a family abroad. They are warriors of identity, ambassadors of truth, and builders of bridges between two worlds. The Adeyemi's living room became a safe haven. Story nights, healing circle, potlucks with jollof and pepper soup. Children who had forgotten their roots rediscovered their language, laughter, and strength. Parents cried, not because they were weak, but because they had finally found each other. "We thought moving abroad was the beginning of success," one mother said, "but nobody told us what it would cost." When the roots of a tree begin to decay, it spread death to the branches. The decay wasn't obvious at first. It started with a silence, then a subtle change in posture, a refusal to speak the mother tongue, a sudden preferences for isolation. These were the signs, and no one had prepared them for it. But now they knew better, and that language and knowledge was power. Daniel was invited to speak at a local youth summit on mental health. Standing in front of a hall of over 300 people, he told his story without flinching. "My parents gave me the word," he said, "but the word tried to take me away from them. And not because they didn't love me, but because we all underestimate the cost of assimilation." His words resonated. After his speech, several teenagers came up to him. A Jamaican girl whispered, "I thought I was going crazy." A Somali boy hugged him and said, "Thank you for saying what